Welcome to another episode of Coach's Collection, the weekly dive into one of the decks from my collection. And this week we have a heater. It's Comrade Money Lechner. That's right, folks. This week I'm talking about Comrade Money Lechner. This is one of my top decks, and I've been spending some time with it. I alluded to it in my key thoughts this past week. And let me tell you why I love this deck. Because it is awesome, okay? That's the plain, simple truth. This deck may have the greatest cycling I've ever seen or experienced because it happens so many ways. Not only that, it comes in multiples. So what I'm saying is I'm going to show you through the deck here, a little run through, but just so you see the multiples. So you got 2 information exchanges, 2 sanitation engineers, 2 jar goggles, 2 positron bolts, triple Kirby. You have a double stealth mode, double gray, double Molfin, triple Song of the Wild, double unnatural selection, and then all that. So there's so many ways of being consistent with the deck and being able to get those tools, because it's like you built the deck almost the way some of these things come together, which is so wild for KeyForge. And it just cycles so amazing because you have a babbling bibliophile. You have the 2 sanitation engineers to get out cards that you don't need in your hand so you can draw more. You have the double jar goggle, which helps you draw. Then you have the triple Kirby, Chan even. Then you go next into the information officer grays, which for me are the unsung heroes of this deck, because it really helps me build up those plays to have the really strong Kirby turns and stuff like that. Especially when you have triple Song of the Wild and unnatural selections, it just gives you that opportunity to save those for when you want to use them for the absolute wild turns that can exist when you're using Kirby's to get your Song of the Wilds and just start reaping for bananas amounts of Ember plus uncharted lands out there. It can get really gross with the Ember control you can do on Star Alliance. Like once Star Alliance comes out, the game is kind of like, you are in trouble, opponent, you are in trouble. Then you have the fun stuff that happens here by making your creatures bigger with Anga, which I really like. And then on top of that, you're having the Ember control in pretty much every house, I think. But it's not a lot. Oddly enough, I think Logos has the most Ember control, which is a weird statement to say, because you have Cutthroat plus Information Exchange, which is really nice if they're bursting. And then beyond that, you just have a Frayne, King Can, which is, I've actually been able to utilize King Can quite well, because sometimes I'm getting on my Star Alliance, but I'm not calling Untamed for a while because I'm just like putting it away. And I can literally just go Untamed, steal 1. Like I've literally used that to keep myself in a game before. And then obviously you have the Molfin taking care of the board if your stuff is stolen. Actually, there is no Ember control in Untamed. It's not an Ember control deck. This is an offensive deck, like to the T. Like you are pressing, you are pushing, you're making your opponent constantly worry about what you're doing and not necessarily doing what they want to do, because they constantly have to respond to the situation you create. And it just allows for the most interesting things. Like it cycles so fast, you're archiving, you're playing things out of house constantly. Like this is the deck of my dreams, and I've had this since Christmas and I haven't really played it. And I don't know, I actually meant to put it in a triad I did recently, and instead I chose another deck because for some reason I didn't have faith in this deck, and I'm literally now like kicking myself wondering why I didn't choose this deck, because it fell in line with some of the other things I was trying to do and create a theme. So I feel just silly for not choosing it, because I'm having an absolute blast. Like I'm having people concede early because once they see certain things exist, it's just like game over. Oddly enough, unnatural selections sometimes don't get played at all just because my board is so strong that I don't need it. But it's really nice to have that, so I can curate my opponent's board if they get out of control, and also just allow myself that kind of extra. It's also really nice because if you go 3 down to 3 apiece and you drop your Flaxia, that comes into play. The other things I'm really enjoying in this deck is obviously the Positron Bolts. I found some really cool plays using Positron Bolt where I can actually kill my Jar Goggles with Song of the Wilds underneath. So that gives me like go Kirby, then play the like I'm saving this under a Jar Goggle, then my Kirby plays my Positron Bolt, which blows up my Jar Goggles, and then allows me to have the Song of the Wilds trigger, which is a really fun thing to do. There's also the remote access has actually been quite clutch. These are great. The double stealth mode. Stealth mode's a great card, but being able to know your opponent has Ember control through action cards, and you just be going nope, or board clears after you just establish a really strong Star Alliance board and being like, nope. That's also a really, really nice thing to have in the back pocket. So, like, again, it's all the multiples in this and the cycling that makes this deck so good, because it can just fly out the gates, like, so fast, so offensive. People are just really scrambling to keep up. I have a really nice record with it, and I'm really enjoy playing it. Like, the freedom of play as you get the reps with this deck, I'm finding, is quite astonishing, and it's really allowing me to do some really wacky and funky things. I'm enjoying discovering new things, like that whole Jargoggle, blowing up your own Jargoggles to get the cards out with the Positron Bolts, has been a newer discovery I've had, and I'm finding it to be a lot of fun. Light of the Archons is kind of a weird card in this deck because it really doesn't do anything. It's kind of funny. Like, I honestly need to be cautious and utilize my camouflage on a creature I want to use with also Light of the Archons, even like a Kirby play potentially, because it just makes it that much greater and provides that extra protection on important creatures. Mainly Kirby is legit the only important creature. The other person to consider is First Officer Frayne, just because it creates that residual turn after turn potential to have some Ember control, but don't use Frayne as your person. So yeah, this is just such a cool deck. Information Officer Grey, like I said, unsung hero. One of my favorite turn 1 plays in this deck is actually Information Officer Grey over Kirby, because Kirby's I'm setting up really big plays, so I do not want to have the Kirby killed right away. I need them on the board so I can utilize them, because there are a lot of actions in this deck. But the Greys are amazing turn 1 play, especially if you go down to like 6 cards and you're going first and you play this and archive a card. It's just really nice cycling and preparation for the future. Now, just so you get an idea for actions with the Kirbys, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cards you can play with Kirbys. So it's really stellar. One of my favorite things to have opened in the Advent calendar, the Dark Ember Tree, this past Christmas time. And yeah, I'm excited to show you guys this deck on stream because it does wild things. There'll definitely probably be more than one game played with this. So I hope you've enjoyed Comrade Money Lechner. And as always, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.